All right, everybody, welcome back. We're going to jump right in today, going deep on some stories that on the surface don't seem to have much in common.
Right.
We've got Savannah, Georgia,
Okay.
New York, the Bay Area,
It's
Chicago.
like a road trip.
But stick with us. We think some interesting connections will pop up as we go.
Looking forward to it. What strikes me right off the bat is how all these seemingly random events kind of tap into this idea of like trust and security, like in this world where everything feels like it's changing so fast.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start in Savannah, Georgia,
Yeah.
with this home invasion case that honestly is the stuff of nightmares. This 66-year-old man brutally attacked right in his own house. And the crazy part is the attackers, they were disguised as Amazon delivery drivers.
It's not just a couple of petty thieves, This is like organized crime is getting more sophisticated. They're taking advantage of the systems that we rely on, like for everyday convenience, right? I mean, we're all used to opening our doors for deliveries, but this case shows you how vulnerable that makes us. What really gets me is how much planning went into this. They didn't just like slap on a hat. They were wearing what looked like official uniforms. They had a box. It's pretty scary.
Chilling. Yeah, I mean, the victim, he said he actually recognized the attackers from their clothing and that delivery box.
Yeah.
Like, we're supposed to feel safe in our own homes, right?
Yeah.
But this just shows you can't really take that for granted.
Exactly. We're programmed to trust certain symbols, right? Like a uniform, a logo, a package on the doorstep. But criminals are getting smarter. They're using those symbols against us. Think about all the phishing scams out there now. Or even deepfakes. It's like a never-ending game of cat and mouse.
It really makes you stop and think. At least there was a witness who saw one of the guys running away. And they got the video footage, too, so hopefully they'll catch these guys.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That's where the community aspect comes into play, too. A watchful neighbor, a security camera, that stuff can make all the difference. Security isn't just about locking your doors, it's about looking out for each other.
Absolutely. And it's great to see people coming together to support the victim. There's a GoFundMe page to help him with his recovery. So moving on, but sticking with this whole theme of trust and security, let's talk about Meta. They just announced more layoffs, and the thing that jumped out at me was the way they phrased it. They're letting go of the lowest performers.
That's some loaded language.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, how are they even measuring performance in an industry that's evolving so quickly? And what do those metrics really tell you? Are they truly the worst performers, or is this just a way to cut costs and make it sound like the employees are to blame?
Right. It's
Yeah.
easy to forget that there are real people behind those numbers, people with families and lives who are now suddenly facing a really uncertain future.
Yeah, exactly. It's a reminder that these big corporate decisions have human consequences. And you have to wonder if sometimes the pursuit of profit comes at a cost to people's well-being.
For sure, some serious ethical questions there.
Mhm.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit, but still thinking about power and accountability down in Georgia State, Senator Colton Moore was arrested for trying to attend Governor Kemp's State in the State address.
Well, I mean, I don't really know what the state of the state is.
They want us to walk back over here.
I don't know what the state of the state is, but I know we're certainly not the peach state anymore. We're the banana state because we reside in a banana republic. No matter who you are or where you're from in the state of Georgia, you're voted to create and to have, then he is by definition a tyrant and authoritarian. Who really controls this state? Is it John Burns or is it Brian Kemp? Today, I don't know. I didn't get to attend the State of the State address. It's absolutely unbelievable that this is the state that we live in, considering nothing like this has ever happened in the history of the state of Georgia. So let all Georgians...
Georgia politics have been pretty intense lately. This whole thing just shows the tension that's brewing between different groups. It feels like the old rules of political behavior are kind of breaking down.
Yeah, it's a wild time down there. And speaking of political drama and facing the consequences for your actions, let's talk about Rudy Giuliani. He finally settled that defamation lawsuit with those Georgia election workers he accused of all sorts of things. What I found interesting was that he's giving up his World Series rings as part of the settlement. Those were from his beloved Yankees. It's kind of hurt.
It's not just about the money, It shows that even powerful people have to be held accountable for what they say and do, especially when their actions damage trust in our democracy.
Definitely sends a message. All right, last but not least, let's move over to the business world. Walgreens is closing stores all over the place in the Bay Area and Chicago. They're shutting down like a dozen stores in San Francisco alone, and that's just part of the bigger plan to close over 1,000 stores in the next few years.
It's happening everywhere. Brick-and-mortar stores are struggling. Online shopping is booming. Consumer habits are changing. Even big names like Walgreens have to adapt. But it's not just about business. It's about the impact on communities.
That's what I was thinking, too. What happens when a major pharmacy like Walgreens just leaves a neighborhood?
Yeah.
You have to wonder about access to healthcare, especially for older folks and people who rely on public transportation.
It creates these things called healthcare deserts, basically places where it becomes really hard to get essential services like prescriptions. And that hits low-income communities and people with disabilities the hardest.
So we've gone from a home invasion in Savannah to tech layoffs, political showdowns in Georgia, a huge legal settlement, and now store closures affecting communities all over the country. That's a lot to take in. Where does it all leave us?
I think if we look at all these stories together, they paint a picture of the anxiety and uncertainty that a lot of us are feeling. These are uncertain times, right? The systems we depend on, whether it's for deliveries or jobs or even just our political system, they're all facing new challenges. And when we lose trust in those systems, it impacts everyone.
That's a great point. It's definitely a lot to think about.
The question is, how do we respond? Do we give in to fear and suspicion? Or do we find ways to be resilient and work together to build a future where everyone feels safe and secure?
That's the million-dollar question. Thanks for joining us today for this deep dive into, well, honestly, into some of the big issues of our time. And to everyone listening out there, what are your thoughts? Keep the conversation going, and we'll see you next time.